Hi Flosstube, my name is Laura and welcome to my channel, Loves Rubber Stamps and Needlecrafts. Today is Friday the 13th. Ooh. And before it got any farther into the month, I wanted to be sure to get on here and film my WIP parade of my projects going into 2023. So I did actually film this yesterday, but it was a complete disaster. So this is take two. Yesterday, I got interrupted 3 different times by my husband, who had locked himself out of his video games on his computer and was needing passwords and all of that. And I didn't really prepare properly, so my video ended up being about 2 hours long, which was too long for a WIP parade, and scattered and pretty boring. So I decided I'm going to refilm it, because if I didn't want to sit through it, I don't feel like you guys would have wanted to either. So this video, I'm going to share, like I said, my WIPs going into this year, a little bit about my plans for 2023 stitching and my channel, and I'm going to share the measly amount of finishes I had last year. And then before I get going, there was just a few things that I wanted to share that I thought were really cool. So we will go ahead and get started with the video. So first off, just a quick life update. I hope everybody had a Merry Christmas and a great New Year. My Christmas was kind of sucky this year. My husband had got COVID in the beginning of December. He had also had it back in July. And thankfully, when he brought COVID home the beginning of December, my son and I, neither one of us got it. So I had actually just had COVID the end of September, early October. So I had already gotten over it. Not, I guess probably close enough to where I was still a little bit immune, which probably helped me not get it in December. But when I had COVID, it was miserable. I ran a fever for 4 days of right around 104 and had a very stuffy nose. So I wasn't able to stitch or do anything because I was just too miserable. It literally took probably a good week for my fever to finally break. So it was 104 for about the first 4 days. And then after that, it would come down at about 1 degree a day. And, but yeah, very miserable. Don't recommend it if you can help it. And then we did have a Christmas with my son and daughter on Christmas night. Was it Christmas night? Yeah, Christmas night, the 25th. So that was really nice and fun. However, right after that, later that night, when my husband woke up in the middle of the night and was sick, he'd come down with norovirus. So he was sick for a couple days, and he gave it to my son, and then my son was sick for a couple days. And we were supposed to have our big family Christmas that Friday after the real Christmas. But we ended up having a really bad blizzard here in Iowa, so we postponed it until the week after. And of course, that was the week that my husband decided to share his norovirus with me. So I had to miss our big family Christmas. This is the 2nd year in a row I've had to miss it for being sick. So yeah, so that's what I got for Christmas, was norovirus. Don't recommend that either. But my family did FaceTime me while they were doing presents and stuff, so at least I got to see that part of it. But other than that, pretty much just working and staying home. My husband and I did go on a vacation in November. We ended up going to Asheville, North Carolina, and Charlotte. We were there for, how long were we there for? About a week, I think, week and a half. It was a beautiful area. We had a lot of fun. We did get to meet a couple of celebrities while we were there. So we were walking down the street in Asheville, and actually saw Joe Gatto from Impractical Jokers. It was so cute. He was walking down the sidewalk. My husband's like, oh my gosh, it's Joe. And so we just kind of said hi to him. He was in a big hurry, so we didn't get pictures or anything, but it was super cute because he had one of his Yorkies. I think his Yorkie's name is Spumoni. But he had a baby carrier on the front of his chest, and the little Yorkie was in the baby carrier, kind of face out with all his little paws going. It was super cute. And then when we were at the Charlotte, we went to the NASCAR Hall of Fame in Charlotte one day, and we got to meet, if you guys remember the Bob Newhart show, John, I have to think of his last name. He played the other brother, Daryl. So when Larry and his brother Daryl and then the other brother Daryl would come in, John, the actor, played the other brother Daryl, and he actually works at the NASCAR museum. So I got to take a picture with him, so I'll insert that picture here. So that was kind of cool. I used to watch that show with when I'd stay at my grandparents, and that was always a part that cracked me up was, I'm Larry, this is my brother Daryl, my other brother Daryl. So yeah, that was pretty cool. Other than that, we did some hiking and got to see we were there kind of right after the peak colors, I think, came down, but there was still some color in the trees, so I bet it's just a beautiful area when it's all got all the fall colors. So hope to go back there someday. We were there during the tail end of a hurricane, but where we were at, it rained just very slightly. We never got any nasty rain or anything because I think we're a little bit farther up. So I may insert a few pictures from our vacation at the end of the video if you want to kind of see those. So I think that's probably enough of life update. We'll go ahead and get started because I have several WIPs, 35, I think. I have 35. Before we get started though, I would like to share a couple of really cool things. First, I was super excited for this. So I have been stalking eBay for years to try to get one of my unicorn charts, and it doesn't come up very often because it was a limited run of 1,000 charts. And finally one came up. I've been on a few in the past but never was able to get them, but finally the cross stitch gods worked in my favor, and one of my unicorn charts came up on eBay, and I was able to actually get it this time. So I wanted to share that with you. So it's a Teresa Wentzler chart, and it was a special release for a fantasy fair in 2005, and it was You Were Hatched, and you can see that it's signed, and this is number 907 out of 1,000. This is the sweet mama dragon and her little baby. So super excited to finally have this one in my stash. I can't wait to stitch it. I've just always thought it was super sweet. And like I said, it's so hard to find. But I'm glad I finally was able to get that one. So, love. I do have one more unicorn chart that I've been stocking on eBay. It always goes for really high price, so I don't know if I'll ever get it, but that one is the Primitive Needle, which is hollow. That one is just, I love it. I love Halloween, I love witches, all of that stuff, and that one is just amazing. And I remember I had come back to cross stitch. I hadn't cross stitched for about 8 years after my grandpa passed away. And when I did come back to cross stitch, she had Lisa, I think her name was Lisa, the designer, she had already passed away, so her charts were already getting hard to find then. And so I kind of missed out on the opportunity to get the charts when they were easily accessible because I wasn't stitching then. So I'm still stocking eBay. I hope someday to have that one or be able to stitch that one because the design is amazing and it's everything I love. So that is my current unicorn. The next thing I wanted to share with you is back in October, my mom, sister, and I got to go, pulling my own hair. My mom, sister, Lindsay, and I all went to the Farm Girl Gatherings retreat in Amana. And I had meant to film a retreat kind of overview after we got back, but I never did get it recorded. But the designer there was Lottie Da, and she did an amazing, gorgeous sampler for us. And we got a kit. We got a couple of different kits from her, but I'll insert a picture of what our retreat kit exclusive was. I'll show you a picture of the model that Lori had designed for us, and I'll insert that here. One of the fun things we always do at retreat is we have a smalls exchange, and what that is if you want to participate, it's not required, but you stitch a small and finish it, and then we do kind of a white elephant type, ooh, I'm gonna get the hiccups, a white elephant type exchange for the gifts. So my mom, sister, and I always try to participate, and I wanted to share the small that I got with you because this is gorgeous. And it's too gorgeous not to share. But this was stitched by my friend Sherry Ward, and I've been lucky enough now in the exchanges that we've been to, or the retreats we've been to, I've ended up with 3. This is the 3rd Sherry project I've received. And I don't mind getting all of Sherry's stuff because her stitching is gorgeous. Her finishing is amazing. She always does really cool projects. So I don't complain. And in fact, her and I joke that I always ask her what she's going to stitch me for the next retreat. So, but let me show you this. So she made a little info card on her project. So this was Lottie Da's A 2 Rabbit Sampler, which was released in 2020. And she stitched only the bottom part of the sampler. And she used the called for fabric, which was R&R 36 count sheep straw, and the called for DMC. And look what she finished it on, you guys. She finished it on a cigar box. So look at this box. I have it unhinged. Isn't that such a pretty color? But look at this. Isn't that gorgeous? So it says Farm Girl Gatherings 2022 because that's the name of the retreat. But look at her stitching. I think it's stunning. And then this latches. I already have it unlatched so I could show you the inside, but it's Havana Honeys. And then she put some scrapbook paper in the bottom. And then, oops, I'm gonna put this back inside it here. And this latch just closes. And it says, there we go. But yeah, totally love it. It's amazing. It was too beautiful not to share with you guys since I didn't get my retreat update or retreat overview or recap filmed. So wanted to share that. And then the other thing I wanted to share before I get into my WIPs was I had found an Etsy store that sells project bags, and her bags are beautiful. They are so cool. And so I wanted to share the bags that I purchased from her. And actually yesterday I had made another order from her store, And once I get those in, I actually ordered, I think 2 that I'm going to use for a giveaway here on my channel once I get them in. So make sure to subscribe to my videos and hit the little bell so you're notified when I post videos, because that will be an upcoming giveaway once those come in. So let me show you the bags that I got in my first order, because these are stunning. So her Etsy store is called Pinky Promises Store. And like I said, she's on Etsy, but she makes vinyl front bags. They're soft and squishy, beautifully quilted. They come with matching floss drops. But what makes these bags so different and amazing is on the backs, she does stunning embroidery. So this fall leaves has a fall tree, but look at that. I'm trying to see if I have it in frame here. So that was the first bag I got. Gorgeous. The next bag I got was this beautiful winter one. It has the floss drops. And check out this embroidery. This is a gorgeous deer with holly berries in his antlers, pine cones, evergreen. So pretty. This one I think is one of my favorites. This is a Halloween bag, which I love Halloween anyway. It has little owl thread keeps, which, look at this, you guys. Isn't that stunning? It's a gorgeous owl. In the pumpkin patch. And he is got the moonlight around him. I love how the moonlight lights are on the pumpkin, kind of shadowing everything. It's just beautiful. Looks like stars, but amazing. That's one of my favorites. Then I got this other Halloween bag that has skulls and skeleton hands, thread drops. And look at that. It's got skeleton hands that make a heart. Trying to see if I got it in frame there. There we go. And I think this last one is my all-time favorite. So this one is so stinky cute. It's got a farm. It's a farm theme. And looky, thread drops. So that will kind of clue you in on what's on the back here. But you guys, this is so cute. Look at that piggy. Oh my gosh, it looks just so realistic, like 3D, like she's trying to give you a snout kiss. Where's your snout kiss? So I follow Esther the Wonder Pig on Facebook. I don't know if you guys follow Esther, but if you don't, you should. Esther the Wonder Pig lives in Canada with her 2 dads, Steve and Derek. And Steve is the one that does all the postings for Esther on her Facebook page, and he is hilarious, so it makes Esther seem hilarious. She's quite the diva, but they had gotten her thinking she was a mini pig, but she grew up to be a full-size commercial, like had been bred to be a commercial hog. And so she weighs over 600 pounds. She lives in their house. Very sweet. And I love following their page because they just make me laugh every day. But this reminds me of sweet little Esther pig, so I had to get it. But that is the cutest pig I've ever seen. And I love how it looks like it's 3D. So sweet. But I just think those make her project bags really kind of unique and stand out. So very reasonable priced, very well made. Just a gorgeous, gorgeous store. So be sure to check her out. One last thing for Christmas, since my husband gave me norovirus, which wasn't a very good gift. I went ahead and bought myself a Christmas present, which I've been wanting for quite a while. So I had ordered the Lowry stand from Lindy Stitches for myself for Christmas. And I've been using it. I love it. I think it does help me stitch a little bit faster. But the cool thing is, very unexpected, but when I got my package in the mail right after Christmas, Lindy had included a free pattern for me in my order, which was this beautiful one called Marvelous World. And I don't have this one, so that's really pretty. I love that bird on it. Such a cool looking bird. So I'm gonna have fun stitching that. Super cute. So Lindy Stitches shipped extremely fast. It was very well packaged. So if you need a Lowry stand, Lowry, is that how you say it? I want to say like Lowry sea salt. A Lowry stand, get it from Lindy Stitches. She's very quick, packaged well, and you'll love it. So now we'll go ahead and get started with the cross stitch stuff, which is my WIPs. While you're here, let me just get my tablet ready, because with my full coverage, I'm going to show you on my tablet the designs. Oop, I keep pulling my own hair today. All right, sorry about that. I went to plug in turn on my tablet to be able to use that to show you the mock-ups for my full coverage designs when we get there. And the battery was completely dead, so I had to go upstairs and get my cord. So, and then my husband called me, so he may call me again. I may have to pause, but we'll go ahead and try to get through these. So first, I thought I would share my finishes from last year, and unfortunately, I didn't hardly have any. I participated in No New Starts last year, and the track I had done was Work Your WIPs. A lot of my projects are bigger projects. So I only managed to get 4 finishes last year, and they were all small finishes, like just small. So the first one that I finished was it was All Through the Night in the Berry Patch, and here was that one. And this one I stitched on 36 count vintage country mocha, and I used all the called for floss. The only change I did was to the bird's eye, where I added a little Mill Hill bead for the eye. So super cute. I've actually stitched this one 3 different times, one for an exchange, one for my mom, and now for myself. So I think this one went a little slower because it was the 3rd time I stitched it. But I think it's so cute. Love it. I do have a finishing idea in mind, so just need to do it. So that was my first finish. And because I was in No New Starts, the Work Your WIPs track last year, at the very beginning of the year, you did get 1 free start to start whenever you wanted to, if you did that track. So basically you went into the year with all your WIPs. You could work on any of your WIPs you wanted. And then they did album checks throughout the year where you could earn free starts if you had shown progress on a variety of WIPs. So I actually earned the 2 starts for the album checks, and then I had a free start at the beginning of the year. But honestly, I didn't use any of my free starts at all. Like last year, after I finished, another way to earn starts was you finished a project and then you could start a new project in that same size category. So my other 3 finishes were all for the 2 retreats we went to, and I participated in a Farm Girl Gatherings Patreon exchange for spring. So my other 3 finishes were all for exchanges. So what I did is I finished this WIP, which was a small, so I could start a new small, and then that was for the retreat. And then when I finished that retreat piece, I started a new small for my exchange. And then, so basically for my finish of this small WIP, I started and finished 3 more smalls all from this finish. So other than that, I didn't finish anything. And so pretty much all my WIPs I'm going to share with you are all from the same ones last year, so with no new start. So if you see my WIP parades before, you will likely recognize some of these projects. So there are several that I didn't work on at all last year, so they may be kind of new to you if you're new to my channel, or you haven't seen them for quite a while because I haven't worked on them. So the other finishes, like I said, they were for exchanges, so I'll have to insert pictures. The first one that I did was for the Farm Girl Gathering Spring Retreat, and that one was a little snippet from Land That I'd Love by Teresa, and I finished it on a paddle board. So I will go ahead and insert a picture of that finish here. And that one I had stitched on 36 count vintage country mocha as well. The next finish that I did was for the spring Patreon exchange for Farm Girl Gatherings channel, Farm Girl Dry Goods, on her Patreon. And this one was an Etsy pattern from a store called Home Stitchness, and it was called Springtime Greetings, and I just made it into a simple pillow. So here is that finish here. And then my third finish last year was for the fall Farm Girl Gatherings retreat. And this one was also an Etsy store called Salt and Pepper Stitching. And this one was called Pumpkin Girl. And I finished this one on as a pillow, and I did the ruched ribbon edging with the beads. Did I have beads? I can't remember if I did beads on it or if it was just I think it was just the ruched ribbon. I don't think I did beads on it. It was stitched on 36 count vintage sand dune. I think that's a Lakeside linen fabric. All the called for flosses, I believe. And the backing of this one, which I'll share, was velveteen fabric from Lady Dot Crates. So I'll go ahead and insert pictures of that finish here. So those were my 4 finishes. I was hoping to get more, and but honestly, there were several times last year that I didn't even stitch for a couple months at a time. There were a few different times I had problems with trigger thumb, so it made it kind of hard to stitch. And the last time I went to the doctor to get a shot in there, she said if they would do one more injection if I needed it, but then after that I'll have to have surgery if it keeps returning. So fingers crossed that doesn't happen, because then I really won't be stitching for a while. So yeah, I just didn't get as finishes like I wanted, or as much progress as I wanted, but sometimes I think that's how our stitching goes sometimes. So before we get into my cross stitch WIPs here, I do want to share a non-cross stitch WIP. It's kind of still related, but in July, I went to a Farm Girl Gathering wool applique retreat because I want to learn how to do wool applique. The project that we got there was beautiful, very, I feel, kind of advanced for a beginner. So I did work on it while I was at retreat, and it was helpful having the designer there and teaching how to do it, so I could handle it while I was there. But now that I'm at home and have to try to put it together myself, it's a little intimidating because it's a big one and a little advanced. So I wanted to start with something small just to try to get some like real basic stuff. So one of the gifts that we got in the exchange from the designer was the sheep pin cushion, and I love their little sheep. It's by the Woolen Needle, which is in Williamsburg, Iowa, and that was the designer for the retreat. Beautiful store if you ever get to go there. Right now they're closed due to some a pipe burst in their attic, and they have to have that repaired, so they had some damage to the building. So they do still have online shopping where they will ship things, but their store is closed right now. But she had given us all these kits. So then my mom and my sister Lindsay had went with me to stay in Amana while I was at retreat. And when we went to the store, they both bought these kits too. So we could all, because they want to learn. So we had a craft night where we all three started our little sheep. And this is as far as I've gotten. So I got the pieces cut out and fused. I've got the blanket stitch all the way around my little sheep. I did little French knot eyes, which I think turned out pretty decent. Usually I really suck at French knots, and I usually tend to try to use beads when I can, but I sucked it up and did it, and I don't think they turned out too bad. So now what I'm working on is blanket stitching around his little head, and then I got to do his little feet, and then add those little lazy daisy flowers, and then put them together. So really fun, cute. It's something fun to do that's a little bit different. Good watch TV project when you're doing all those blanket stitches. So I got some other wool applique kits to do, so hopefully once in a while I'll try doing some of those. All right, now cross stitch whips. So these aren't going to be any particular order. I just got them out and have them piled up around me. So I'm just going to grab and share. As there are a few that I have already worked on here in January. So when we come to those, I will share which ones those are, and then I will put a picture in of where I was at the last year's WIP parade for any of the ones I've worked on at some point during the year. So I'll put a beginning photo in if I've worked on it. If I haven't worked on it, there's no sense in putting a picture because it's going to look exactly the same as it does from last year. So the ones that I have worked on this year so far, I will insert a picture of where I was at the beginning of the WIP parade. And then if I made significant progress on it so far this month, I'll put a picture of where I was at the end of December before I worked on it in January, because I took pictures of all those. So there's just a few, so I'll share those when I come to them. Other than that, these aren't, like I said, going to be in any particular order, so we'll just grab and go. So we'll get started. Oh, which pile do I want to start with first? We will start with this pile. Pretty bad when you don't even know which pile to start with. So this one is my Dark Queen of the Sea by Autumn Lane Stitchery. And I started this one in 2020. And this is one that I have worked on this year. And I don't have, unfortunately, a printout of what she'll look like finished. I will insert a picture here of what she looks like when she's finished, or very similar. And now I will go ahead and insert a picture of where I was at my WIP parade at the beginning of last year. And here's where I'm at now. So I'm not going to take her out of the Q snap. All really that you can't see is just her hand. But I'm stitching her on 32 count opal Into the Mystic by Color Cascade Fabrics. Gorgeous fabric, has sparkle. And the original design fabric that was made by Under the Sea Fabrics had like teals that went down into purples, and this fabric does too, but it had a lot more black in it, which, because she's a dark queen, I thought was perfect for her. So I'm using this fabric. I'll kind of come close in. And the part that I stitched, I finished all the coral and all the leaves that came up. So that was actually, this was a monthly stitch along, and that all the coral and all these leaves was a 1 month release for it. So she has a ton of stitching in her, but she's beautiful. So the sal's already over, so I'm just kind of working on her at my own pace, but I'll come in so you can see her closer. I did change her hair. It took me a long time to figure out what I wanted to do with her hair, but I wanted it to look like seaweed. And I also changed her eye color to blue, which I don't know if you can see. But I love stitching on her when I get her out. I can't wait to get her finished. I think she's so pretty. And the cool thing about it is some months they gave you options on different, there was like 2 different faces you could do. They did a whole bunch of different hair color conversions. There was the option to have her be her boobies covered or her boobies out. And let me say, I've seen some of the ones with her boobies out, and she's a very well endowed lady, let me tell you. But I chose to have her boobies covered. I also changed her lips, like I made them dark instead of red. So a lot of fun. I do have several ideas going forward in some of the parts that I want to add or kind of customize that's a little bit different from how it came out. So that is one of the perks of being behind in a SAL, because you can see some of the cool things that other people come up with and then kind of adapt those to yourself or your project. So I don't mind getting behind in SALs sometimes, because sometimes it can work to your advantage and you see some really cool things that people share and do as well. So that is Dark Queen of the Sea. And I'm gonna try to put, try to put some of these away as I go, otherwise I don't really, it's gonna be a disaster. So I have them all out, so that'll help with the time, I think. All right, my next project is out of this magazine. It's Cross Stitch Collection issue 158. It's this one on the cover, the bird watching. I'll show you a better picture of it here. There we go. And this one I have worked on since last WIP parade, so I'll put a picture of where I was at last year here. And this one I just started in 2021, so it's not super old, but it is stitched on 28 count vanilla cream Lugana from Color and Cotton. And here's where I'm at currently. So I just kept working on some of the bird. I got his little belly done, and then this flower here. This beautiful needle minder I got, I won a magazine, a bird magazine from Calico Whimsy here on Flosstube Calico. And she sent me this needle minder of this beautiful hummingbird in my package. So if you don't watch Christine's Flosstube, you really should. She's a huge enabler for me as well. So usually when I watch her videos, I have to stop them and go buy something. So that's where I'm at on this one. And the fabric that I chose, I did try to stay pretty true to, pretty similar to what the pattern called for, because the background, I think, has a lot to do with the overall design. So I wanted it to be very similar. So that's a fun stitch. It's gonna have a lot of back stitching, but it really brings the design to life. So sometimes you have to do that back stitching to make it really stand out. So I don't mind back stitching when it really helps the designs pop. All right, my next one is a shame that I'm not done. This is going to be a priority project for me this year to get it finished, because it's a fan favorite and I literally am almost done. I don't have a whole lot left. This is from 2017, and this one is my Red Birds by Marie Barber. That's what it'll look like when it's finished. And it's in this issue of Just Cross Stitch magazine, November, December of 2011. This issue is kind of hard to find, but if you Just Cross Stitch came out with DVDs that had 10-year spans of their magazines, and there is a DVD out that has the 2011 issues in it. So that might be a way to get your hands on this issue if you really want to stitch it. There's several other projects in here that I want to stitch. There's some gorgeous, gorgeous designs in here. So this is a really good issue. But try to find that DVD. You can find it usually on Amazon. Usually I think retail price is around $50, but you can usually find it at some good discounts. So always check for those. This is in a project bag I have from Dot Goose Design, Cardinals with poinsettias in holly. But this one, after reviewing my WIP parade from last year, I actually, sad to say, I don't think I worked on it. If I did, it was very minimal, so I'm not going to insert a picture of where I was at last year because it pretty much looks the same. But here's where I'm at now. And I will kind of come in so you can see the little birds a little better. This is, let me fold it, see, it doesn't have the shine through. So this one I'm stitching in honor of my grandma and grandpa who both passed away. I love to stitch cardinals for them, and they always say that when you see cardinals, it's your loved ones visiting you from heaven. So I like to stitch cardinals in their memory. So this one is Grandma Cardinal, is what I call her. Very pretty. Flowers, super pretty. Then this one is Grandpa Cardinal. And Grandpa is super pretty too. And if I did work on it, all I did was maybe add a little bit more here into that. There's a big like another big flower like this one over on this side, and then some more berries. That's really all I have left. So beautiful design. I love the details, amazing. It always blows me away when artists, like designers, get all that detail with the shading and there's no backstitch in it. So that's a plus. Plus it's beautiful. When I do get this finished, I would like to have it framed by Jill Rensel since it's a special piece for my grandparents. So I really want to get that finished this year. And my friend Kay, who goes to the cross stitch retreats, she started this around the same time I did, I believe, or shortly before me or shortly after me. But she just posted on Facebook probably a month ago. She actually finished hers. So it really makes me want to get mine finished because hers is gorgeous and I'm really close. And this is a special piece, so I really need to get it finished. So that's my red birds. Will be a priority. This next one, I have not worked on. This one is Back Again Someday Snowman from Stony Creek, and I started it in 2021. And this one is in my Grinch bag. And I'm not sure who made this one. I know it's on Etsy. But it has this really cute zipper pull of the Grinch. It also came with a giant needle minder. Grab it here. That matched it too. So that was cool. But this design, I think it's super, super sweet, but also makes me a little sad, which is kind of silly, but let me show you what it is. So it's this really adorable snowman, and it says, "I'll be back again someday." And the little has a spring robin. And you just know that this little guy is going to melt into a big puddle. And it just makes me sad that he's sitting there and you just know he's going to melt because he's so cute. And even though he says he's going to be back someday, it's just so sweet. He's still going to melt. So it makes me a little sad, but it's adorable. It is going to be in this issue of Stony Creek Magazine, winter of 2014. I really love that. Those little birds are so cute. So again, this one I haven't worked on at all this year. I started this one, like I said, in 2021, and it's being stitched on Summer Clouds Monaco from Stony Creek. So all I have is just the scarf. So that. All right, so my next one is also one I have not worked on this year, or over the year. This one is Spring ABCs by Little House Needleworks. And this one I started in 2019. And this is where I'm at. So I'm clear down to the letter R. But let me come in close. Let me... Oops. I'm gonna put this behind it. So this one is being stitched on a 28 count Monaco that I coffee and tea dyed. I used the tutorial from Priscilla and Chelsea, and also Vaughan, the Twisted Stitcher. She dyes her fabric very similar to that as well. She had it was called the Bake and Base method. She had it on her blog for a tutorial. So I've already stitched winter of this, and I would like to stitch the summer and the fall designs once I get spring done. I do plan, I think, stitching summer and fall on the same fabric. So this one should not, I mean, I'm clear down to R, so not over halfway. And this one is in my So Much to Love bag of cocoa mugs. And I have the other seasons in here to work on once I get spring done. My next one was a kit that my mom got me for a gift. And it is Jesus by Vervaco. That's what it'll look like when it's finished. And I have not worked on this one this year. This one I'm just stitching using the kit fabric and floss. And it's on a 14 count, I believe it's like an ivory Aida, but this is where I'm at. So I got most of his, one side of his face filled in, working on his nose, and then get that filled in. So that one, hopefully it won't, probably about a third of the way done. Hopefully it won't take, I mean, it's a lot of stitching, but it's amazing to me the detail that they get with just so few colors. And there's no back stitch either, so just all full crosses. There's not even, I don't think, any fractionals even. So that'll be a fun one. My next one is also one that I have not worked on this year. It is by Hands On Design, called Fresh Eggs Farm, designed by Priscilla, Blain, and Kathy Haberman. And here's where I'm at. So just a tiny start, a chicken and part of the gate. And this is a 32 count Belfast linen that I dyed myself using RIT dyes to look like a chalkboard. I do want to stitch all the farm series, like pretty much every series that Priscilla did with Hands On Design. I want to stitch those. So I figured if I'm going to be stitching all of these series, I need to learn how to dye fabric that looks like chalkboard to try to save a little money, like buy the big yards of fabric and dye them myself. So that's where I'm at on that one. Okay, my next one I also have not worked on this year. I think that's like a theme that we're coming into. So this one is Trick or Treat, and it's charted by Lena Lawson Needle Arts. And the artist is actually Pascal Mogru. But that's what it'll look like finished. And you guys, this thing, okay, it's not very big. It's only 82 by 135. But this is full, chock full of color changes and tons of backstitch. Like, seriously, look at this color list for this chart. It's even got blends for that small of a chart. Isn't that crazy? But it's very cool, and it will be so neat when it's finished. But like I said, I haven't worked on it so far this year. I think I do have it slated for a little bit of work here in January for one of the challenges that I want to do. So here's where I'm at. Just some pants. And this one I started in 2020. And this is being stitched on a 28 count limited edition September 2016 fabric of the month from Crafty Kitten Fabrics. So love that one. Such a cool design. It'll be so neat when it's finished. I should work on it today since it's Friday the 13th. Maybe I will. For a little bit anyway. That might be kind of fun, is to do that dark October. Well, it's not really dark October stitching, but I think under that concept, the 13th of every month, because it's a spooky number, you're supposed to work on a Halloween piece. So maybe I'll do that this year. So my next one is also one I have not worked on this year. Put on your shocked face. This one is from an Etsy store called Samplers and Stories, and it's Herbal Grimoire. And this one I started in 2018 for Stitch Mania, and here's where I'm at. And this one is being stitched on a 40 count mummy wraps from Ship's Manor. This is one of my absolute favorite fabrics for like vintage Halloween spookiness. I just love the colors and the modeling. It's just amazing. So I am using a Dinky Dyes silk for the words in there, and then all the rest, like the borders and some of the little, is that silk? No. Some of the little designs within, I'm just using plain black so I don't run out of the silk. But all the words I wanted to do in this silk fabric. Silk flosses. It was a silk that I got, I think, in a like a Halloween box that I purchased one year. So my next one is one of my oldest WIPs from 2016. This is another one I have not worked on, and it is by Durene Jones, and it was the Fantasy Sal from Lakeside Needlecrafts. So here's where I'm at. And I'll try to come in a little bit closer. So this has a ton of border, but I do have all the border on the first page completed. This is being stitched on 32 count Opal Fairy Dance from Hand Dyed Fabrics by Stephanie. And I do have 3 characters completed. I have all the circles done for the characters. So I've gotten the Pegasus finished. And then I did the wizard. And I've done the little witch. Now, each one of these blocks I have changed and customized some. So like in this one, I used the silk, I think it's the rayon DMC. And then I used some like fuzzy stuff and added beads and Krynic. With this one, I used some silks in his robe, fuzzy stuff for his beard. For this one, I changed, she was supposed to have all pumpkins. And I changed it to a cauldron that was also a Durene Jones design. Put some kind of glow-in-the-dark thread for her stew that she's making. Added a cat button and a spider button and did her hair in turkey work. So it's fuzzy and very cool. So my goal for this one, like, honestly, I love that. I think the design is really cute, but I don't really know. I mean, it's just for me, either here in the craft room or if I ever have grandkids someday, maybe for them. So it's not like a high priority to get it finished. So even though it's super old, I would like to get it done, but it's not one that is super high on my, like, oh, I have to get that finished for anything in particular. So my goal is, when I pick it up to work on it, I want to do the border because this border is insane. But I want to do the border on the page that I'm working on, get the border done, and then as a reward, I'll get a stitch a character. So I did all the border on page 1. So now next time I work on it, I'll get a stitch as a reward for slogging through the border, the January block. And then I'll come over, do the border for the next page, and then get a stitch the February block. So that's kind of my plan for that one when I do pick it up. But like I said, it's not one that's a huge priority because it's just for fun and no real, you know, recipient, or except for myself, no real time frame that it has to be done by. So more just like fun stitching, the creativeness of changing things a little bit to customize it is what I'm having fun with. Okay, my next project is also one, I think I worked on it just a smidge, like maybe 10 stitches, so I'm not going to put it in before picture because you won't be able to tell any different. This one is called A Cozy Winter's Glow, and it's from the World of Cross Stitching magazine, and it's this bear on the cover. And this is issue 118. I started this in 2020. I actually have 2 projects I'm working on out of this magazine. Let me show you a better picture of the bear. And here's where I'm at with him. So this one, I'm just stitching on a 16 count white Aida with all the anchor floss. He is slated to work on a little bit for a challenge this month, so he may get some love. I think he's super cute. And the other design that I'm working on from this magazine is the Joan Elliott 12 Days of Christmas. And this is another one that I haven't worked on at all this year. So put this away and then I'll show you the other one. So this one is on a scroll frame, which probably contributes to why it hasn't been worked on, because I have to work on them down here in my craft room. But here's where I'm at. Just started on the borders. And this one was also started in 2020, and it's on a 28 count white opal Lugana, so it has some sparkle. One thing that I do have to do is this gold that I stitched around here. I'm gonna frog all that out because I tried to use something from my stash that it's a nightmare to work with. It almost feels like it has an elastic in the middle of the fibers. It's like almost like Krynic fibers. They're very bristly, kind of rough. And as you're stitching, especially on this fabric, it kind of shreds those rough fibers, and then it gets very almost like bungee cordish, and then you're just left with that elastic, and it's such a pain in the butt. And this border goes, the gold goes all the way around every single border in the design, so I'm not gonna fight it with a design that big. So I'm gonna rip that out and swap out like petite treasure braid or something like that instead. So next, this is one that I actually have worked on this year a little bit. This is my March Cottage from Country Cottage Needleworks. And I'll insert a picture of where I was at for the last WIP parade here. And here's where I'm at now. So I finished the house and started on the tree. And I started this one in 2020. And it's being stitched on 28 count lamb's wool linen. And the house colors, I picked some color and cotton that I had in my stash that were very similar to what the chart called for. So it's a fun stitch. It wouldn't take very long to finish that one. I do want to stitch the whole series, and I'm just kind of working in order. So I've done January and February's. So once I get March finished, then I'll start with April and just keep going down the line. So, okay, my next one is also one I didn't stitch on this year. If I did, it was very minimal. I think I did just a smidge to finish out a thread, but that's it. So I'm not going to insert a before picture because it looks pretty much the same. So this is my Believe Snowman from Stony Creek. And it's in this issue of August 2007 from Stony Creek magazine. There's so many really good projects in this magazine I want to stitch. It's a good issue. That bear on the front is so cute. I think it'd be sweet as like a little pillow just to stitch the little bear on her rug, just that part of it. So cute. I used to collect cherished teddies and a little bit of the Boyd's bears, and that's what she reminds me of, is like one of the Boyd's bears from back in the, what, 90s when they were popular. This is, I started this in 2018 and really far, ain't I? This is being stitched on 28 count white opal Lugana, so it's that sparkle fabric too. And I've just been working on the outside border. So I got all 3 shades of the green. Just need to finish this, the rest of that stitch. And then start on that inner border. So the border, I think, from the design, I actually made it to like where like this is going to be the candle flame here. And this is kind of where there's some other things. So that's why I was able to get that first quarter of the border. I'm gonna get the hiccups, I think. First quarter of the border done before I run into other parts of the design. So, okay. My next piece is Plum Street Samplers Live on Little. And I actually got mine from attending the Farm Girl Gatherings retreat. That Paulette Stewart was the designer, and this was the design she made for our retreat. It was spring, not last year, but the year before. And it was exclusive to the Farm Girl Gatherings retreat attendees for a year. And she's now just released this design. So now anybody can get it. And it's a beautiful design. And since I was at the retreat, obviously, because I got the retreat exclusive, I will insert a picture here of the model that she brought of this design. It's beautiful. And this one I haven't stitched on this year. Here's where I'm at, just some of the border. And this one is being stitched on the recommended fabric, or that came in the kit. It's a 36 count hog bristle by Fox and Rabbit Designs. Gorgeous color. And I'm using all the floss that she gave us in our kit. So just some of the border started. This one I actually started in, when did I start this? I only started it in 2021. So, love that one. My next one is also one I have not worked on, and it's in this Paula Vaughan's Quilt for All Seasons book. And my page actually fell out, but I'm stitching the November quilt. And this one I started, it's one of my oldest WIPs, started in 2016. And here's where I'm at. So I'm stitching this one on the recommended fabric. I believe it's a 32 count cream Belfast linen. And let me tell you, this quilt is no joke. So all of these frames for the quilt blocks, those are all fractional stitches. The actual quilt squares themselves, all the quilt in here, there's tons of fractionals. So once I get through this quilt, I think this will go really fast because there's a lot of part of the background that's just half stitches. But getting through that quilt is no joke, people. So I think it's going to be so pretty when it's finished, but fractional, I mean, if you ever stitch this design, make sure it's on some kind of even weave. It would be difficult to do on Aida. I'm sure you could do it, but with all those fractionals, it would be a real difficult project to do on an Aida fabric. Okay, my next one is, I have worked on this one. This is Harvest Keeper by Plum Street Samplers. And this was a project I took with me to work on at the Farm Girl Gatherings fall retreat. So I will insert a picture of where I was at the last WIP parade here. And here's where I'm at currently. So I've got a lot more done on the border. Just starting the third side of the border, have the bottom side to do, and then get to do all the fun stuff in the middle. So this one I started in 2020. It was a Stitch Mania start, and it's being stitched on 40 count sampler gold linen by Color and Cotton, using all the called for floss. So this one is so fun to stitch on. I love it. The colors are so pretty. And this one I stuck in, doesn't match the design, but I bought this from Jen's Stitching Niche. It's a Garon toten bag because I needed something really big for the Q snap. So this one, it's a Valentine's bag, but it was a great size because I have this on a larger Q snap. So sometimes you need just a big bag and not necessarily match the project. All right, my next design is one that I have worked on since last WIP parade. It is by Little House Needleworks, and it's Milady's Strawberries. So I'll insert a picture of where I was at last WIP parade here. And I haven't done a whole ton, but I did start on the border across and got a couple of strawberries and some of the little strawberry blossoms down the side. This one's really washing out. I did have to substitute a few colors because it wasn't showing up on my fabric, but I tried to pick colors that looked like the design, very similar. This one I started in 2020, also for Stitch Mania, and it's on a 36 count Ren by Picture This Plus fabric. So, very sweet. This one I have in a project bag that I won in a raffle at one of the Farm Girl Gathering retreats. The inside is just red, but it's this cute little farm bag. My next project is one I've also worked on. It is the Hocus Pocus Trilogy Muriel from Mill Hill. Oops. So I'll insert a picture of where I was at last time you saw it here. And here's where I'm at now. So I just kind of started on doing some of the pumpkin. And I'm just stitching this one on the perforated paper that came in the kit. And I've already stitched the other two, so she's the last witch I need to finish for that one. And this one is in one of my, I won this from Evertote in a giveaway on her channel. This cute little bag. Or no, actually I purchased this one. I won a different bag on her giveaway, but this is one that I bought from her store. I love those little ghosties. They're so cute. So Evertote, they used to be on Etsy. I'm not sure if they still are or not, but great bags. Okay, my next project is one that I've been working on. In fact, I have worked on it this year, some. It is in my Pumpkin Hollow Quilts bag by Olivia. I bought it out of her Etsy store. It has these beautiful birds. And this one I don't have a printout of what it will look like finished. It is the temperature tree from Stitchin' Mommy on Etsy. So I'll insert a picture of what the design looks like here. And I'll insert a picture now of where I was at the last WIP parade. And then now I'll insert a picture of where I was at the end of December, because I have worked on this in January. And here is where I'm at now. So not a whole ton farther, but I did get all of the March leaves in and started on the April branch to do the branch part. So this one I'm stitching on a 40 count River Rock by Color and Cotton fabric. Sometimes it's kind of hard to figure out the light here. And so since I live in Iowa, I kind of expanded the temperature range because our temperatures are so varied. So I added a few more colors. And last year was our 25th wedding anniversary year. So I'm stitching this to commemorate our 25th wedding anniversary. And so on our anniversary, which is Valentine's Day, I stitched the leaf using, I don't know if you're gonna be able to see it. I just added some blending filament, so it made the leaf sparkly. See it just a tiny bit, just to make the leaf a little bit special since it's our anniversary, 25th anniversary. So very pretty. So one of the reasons why I didn't get a stitch very much is because I've been babysitting my 2 grand dogs. They're little Chihuahuas, and they're very needy. So they love their Nana, and when they're over at Nana's house, they have to sit on Nana's lap the entire time they're here. So I watch them Mondays through Thursdays. So it's hard for me to really try to stitch or do, honestly, anything when they're here, because they love their Nana and need Nana cuddles. So I actually found that small projects like this, I'm able to stitch in hand, like stitch while they sit on my lap. So that's why I was able to get this March branch done and started on the April branch, because I'm using this as my, I want to get this finished because it was a special piece, and I'd like to get it done by, just keep working on it till it's finished and get it done as soon as possible, because I'm way behind. I wanted to have it done at the end of December. But this is one that I can work on when I have the 2 grandbeans. So that's my plan. The nights, Monday through Thursday, when they're here, in the evenings while they're here, this will be the piece I'm stitching on, to try to get this one finished. Then my next one is one that I have worked on just a smidge this year. This is my Seasons in Chalk Art Winter by Priscilla, Blain, and Hands On Design. This one was in the Just Cross Stitch magazine issue, February of 2016. And I started this one in 2016 for Stitch Mania. It's one of my oldest WIPs. And I'll insert a picture of where I was at the last WIP parade here. And I'm not going to insert a picture of where I was at the end of December, because I'll show you what I stitched. It's going to not have changed very much. So this is where I'm at currently. And this is on the called for fabric, which is a 32 count slate by Hand Dyed Fabrics by Stephanie. And in January, all I've stitched was this snowflake I've started, and then where these 2 little blue stitches are, this border from there to here to get to the snowflake. That's all I've added so far this month. Everything else I had stitched last year. I'm just using the called for floss, the called for fabric. So this piece, what my plan is, I'm trying to start with some of my oldest seasonal pieces like this. This is one that I'm going to take to work and just basically try to work on it till it's finished. I'm going to actually take 2 projects to work. One will be a Heaven and Earth design that I want to focus on. So when it's not quite so busy, sometimes in the mornings it can be slow for a little bit. The days that we're not super busy, I plan on working on my Heaven and Earth design until things pick up, and then I'll pull out my small seasonal piece that doesn't take as much concentration or involvement to stitch on when it gets a little busier on the days I'm able to stitch at work. And then my plan is just to keep working on this one till it's finished, and then try to pick out the next oldest seasonal piece that's a little bit easier to work on at work, and work on it till it's finished to try to get some of these older WIPs knocked out. So this one is in one of my gnome bags by Doll Birdies. That's the back, and gnomes in the front. So that'll be a work piece for the most part, hopefully until it's done. Okay, and now let's see. My next one is by the Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery. This was a stitch along into the jungle, so it'll look like finished. I have not worked on this one. And this one I started in 2018 for, it wasn't Stitch Mania. I started it in 2018. And the reason why I started it is they kept showing the sloth. And I thought this sloth was the cutest little guy ever. And sloths are one of my spirit animals. And I knew that I had to stitch that sloth. So I had to get this for the sloth. So then what happened is once he was released, I stitched the sloth. And then I didn't work on it for a long time after that. Because I stitched the part I wanted. So here's where I'm at. So I got the sloth and then I got the cute little tree frog, and that's it. So this one I'm stitching on a 28 count limited edition Crafty Kitten fabric from July of 2016. It was the fabric of the month. I picked my own floss for the borders on these. I tried to stay like, I think the border called for a orangey color like that, and this one called for, I can't remember. But I picked floss that kind of stayed true to the color scheme, but had some variegation. They're Moselle flosses. So this is another one that I'm just kind of stitching for myself right now. I don't really have any real plans of what I'm going to do with it when it's finished, so it's not super high priority. I just think it's super cute, and I love the little critters. I think it's just going to be a fun stitch. Maybe if I have grandkids someday, it may be something that could hang in their room or something, but I just loved it because I needed to stitch that sloth. So that is that one. I have a couple of projects in my cross stitch safari book by Jane Netley Mayhew. This book is amazing. She's one of my very favorite wildlife artists. And the first project I'm doing is Elephants, Giants of the Plains. And I haven't stitched on this one this year. So here's where I'm at. Just working on the baby elephant in the middle. So this one is being stitched on 28 count Summer Clouds from Stony Creek, and it's a Monaco fabric, and I started this one also in 2017. But I love that there's no back stitch or anything in here. There's a few fractionals, but the detail that she gets in her charts just using floss is amazing to me. So I can't wait to work on that one some more. It's always so much fun when I do work on it. I love working on that one. The other design that I'm doing from this book, I also have not worked on this last year. This one is Queen of the Cats, the leopard. And this one I started in 2020. It was a Stitch Mania start. And here's where I'm at. So I just started in the grass at the lower left corner of the chart. This grass is massive confetti. Constant color changes. But it's going to look really cool when it's finished. My fabric is from Fabric Flare, and it is a 16 count Ada in African Sunrise, which I think will be stunning with that leopard. And my goal was to kind of have her face kind of where it transitions, kind of there. So love that one. I think it's going to be so pretty when it's finished. But kind of the tricky thing to work on her charts from these books is their color charts. So I have a hard time, you know, I made a working copy just in black and white, but because it's color, I'll kind of show you just a little bit. Sometimes the symbols are hard to see, so you have to use the color chart to try to read the symbols, but then mark it off on your paper chart to kind of keep track where you're at, because it's a very involved chart, and with all the confetti and stuff, they're a little difficult to stitch using colored charts, honestly. So there are several other designs in this book I would love to do. I love the little baby gorilla. The cheetah mama is so pretty. I love the giraffes back here. I mean, her artwork is just stunning. I probably could stitch everything she does. I love it. My next WIP is one that I also have not worked on this year, and it's my Mirabilia Raven Queen. This one, I'm not going to enroll it because you won't, I mean, you can see pretty much all that I've done so far. But this is where I'm at. And this one I started in 2019 for Stitch Mania. And I started with that tower because I wanted to make sure I got the tower centered on this moon that's part of the fabric. This is from Sunny Dyes fabric, and it is a 32 count Carpe Noctem linen. So I think this design is going to be super cool on this fabric, and I just need to get back to it because I think it's going to be so cool. Another one that I haven't worked on, and it's one of my oldest WIPs from 2016. It is The Fortunate Traveler by Teresa Wentzler, and I don't have a printout of what it looks like finished, so I'll have to insert a picture here. I'm just working on the border. I have all the greens in now for that area, so now I can start moving down. I do still have to do the crisscrosses in the background of the border, but this one is being stitched on a 28 count cream cashel linen, which is the called for fabric. And love this one. I remember back when I first started cross stitching, Teresa Wentzler was one of those designers that I was always in awe of her work, and just looking at the designs, they looked so involved and complicated. And I just remember thinking back then when I started that I felt like you had to be an advanced prolific stitcher to stitch any of her projects, because they were just so stunning and beautiful and felt very out of reach. And I just remember I couldn't wait till I felt like I had the skills to stitch one of her charts. And she was always on one of my, she was always a bucket list designer that I wanted to stitch from back in the early days. She has several designs that I want to do. I love her dragons. It's sad that she took those down, that you can't find them anymore, or she doesn't sell them anymore, but just a beautiful designer. So can't wait to get back to that one. So my next one is a kit, and this one is my Eat My Dust kit from Candamar Designs. It's a gold collection kit. Cool lions. I'm not going to enroll this either because I'll just kind of explain what's below that you can't see. So here's where I'm at. And this one I started it's one of my oldest WIPs from 2016. I started it for ooh, hiccup, sorry. I started it for Stitch Mania. And what I did is I started here in the middle of the fabric. It was like his little nose and his mouth, and then I just worked my way up and then over to the left so I could work down from the upper left side of the page. So this is completely full coverage, and even all this background is all full crosses. So there's no half stitches or anything. It's just all full crosses in there. So one of the challenge groups that I'm in this year is Full Coverage Fanatics on Facebook. And I chose this, they had a challenge this year of a focus on a finish, try to get a full coverage finished. I knew I wasn't gonna be able to get one of my Heaven and Earths finished, and this is a full coverage design. Like I said, it's all full cross, even all that background. So I thought maybe this one might be doable. It is one of my oldest WIPs, so I would love to get it finished because I have a bazillion other kits that I want to start, and yeah, I just need more lifetimes to stitch all my stash, all my things. But this one I would like to try to get done this year, and I figure even if I make it a focus piece, and even if I don't get it completely finished, if it's close, I would be happy with that. Even halfway, honestly, I'd be happy with. So this one hopefully will get a lot of love this year. All right, now we're just kind of getting into my full coverages, I think. I think I just have all my full coverage left. So the first one is one that I have actually worked on this year, and it's actually a focus piece for me for January. Let me show you what it is. So I use Pattern Keeper for mine, which if you stitch full coverage and don't use Pattern Keeper, get it, because it's amazing and just saves you so much time. Total convert after I got to use it. So this is the stocking I'm stitching for my son. It's called Kitten Christmas 2 by Donna Gelsinger, and it's from Heaven and Earth Design. And this one, like I said, is a January focus for me because in Full Coverage Fanatics on Facebook, they have a challenge. It's going to be every month they're going to pick a different color, and you choose one of your full coverage designs that features that color kind of prominently in the design. And for January, it was the color red. So you just had to be able to look at the design, and that was a prominent color in the chart. You don't have to actually stitch the color, but when you look at the chart, you do have to be able to see, hey, that has red in it. So I chose this one. So my goal is that the nights that I work, this will be my stitching at home piece. Those, the days that I work, after my grandchildren go home, after my granddogs go home. So while they're here, I'll have to stitch on my temperature tree. When they're not here, then I can stitch on my stocking. So this one I actually started in 2021. So I will insert a picture of where I was at last WIP parade here. And then I'll go ahead and insert a picture here of where I was at the end of December. And here's where I'm at now. So I do have a thread on my needle because, like I said, I am working on it currently. Just still working on page 1 of that background. And so far this month, I have put in 586 stitches. So that puts me at, let's see, 2.22% finished. So this one I'm just stitching on a 20 count white Aida, and I'm doing it 2/1 full crosses. Like I said, that's the stocking I'm stitching for my son because he loves cats. They're one of his favorite animals. My next design, or my next WIP, is the stocking that I'm stitching for my daughter, and this one I'm only 1.59% complete. And this one is also by Heaven and Earth, also by Donna Gelsinger. And this one is called Shih Tzu for Christmas. And I'm stitching this one for my daughter because the little puppy, even though it says it's a Shih Tzu, My sweet little girl, Bella, who just passed away in the fall. She was 15, 16. We'd had her since she was a little baby, and she passed away of cancer. But she was a Japanese chin, but when she was a little baby, she looked pretty similar to this. And I'll insert a picture of Bella when she was a baby so you can see the resemblance, because it's kind of uncanny. So, and she loved my daughter. She was my daughter's favorite, or Alicia was her favorite. So that's why I'm stitching that one for her. And this one, I haven't stitched on this one since my last WIP parade, I don't believe. So there probably won't be a before picture. But here's where I'm at. Just in page 1 background. And this one I started in 2018, and it's also being stitched on a 20 count white Aida 2/1 full crosses. So full coverage fanatics, one of the I think there's a month, I can't remember what color I picked, but there is a month that this one will be a focus piece. I'm trying to, all of my full coverage, I'm trying to work into one of those months that will be a focus in their challenges. My next one is my Dog Double Shelf by Randall Spangler. And this is one that I have worked on so far this year. Not a whole ton, but I have worked on it in January. But let me show you what it will look like finished. And this is one that I'm stitching for my mom. And currently I am at 8.62% complete. I've done 27,056 stitches. So for this one, I'll insert a picture of where I was at during the last WIP parade here. And I'm not going to insert a picture of where I was at the end of December, because honestly, in January so far, I've only put in 166 stitches. So it's not going to be a huge difference. So I'll just kind of show you where I've been. So here's where I'm at now. So I've just been concentrating on trying to get this page finished up. The bottom of the page is right at the end of this last arch in the book. So right here, and it goes to about right here. So this is all I have left to finish this page up. But let me tell you, these spines in the book with these arches and like the little gems and those are super confetti, like tons of color changes. So what I've been doing is I'll pick a color, stitch it, you know, in this page I'm trying to get done. And then because sometimes it's only 1 or 2 stitches or 3 or 4 stitches in this whole page, I still have that thread on my needle. So then I've just been kind of seeing if it's in one of these other pages that I've started that it's easy to see where I need to make those stitches. And just, I try to use up that thread before I put it away and get another color. Just so I'm not constantly switching when I'm going to have to pull it out and do some stitches over here in that color anyway. So that's why it's taking a little bit longer to finish this page up, because it's confetti. I'm in all the ninja stitches right now, and a lot of color changes. Looks amazing. This one's being stitched on 28 count white Lugana 1/1 full cross. And this is the one that I'm going to take to work to be my work focus piece when it's not quite as busy. So then when it's too busy to work on this one, then I'll work on one of those seasonal smalls, which right now is going to be that winter piece that I shared. So my next one is my absolute oldest WIP, and this one is New Girl 3 by Winnel, charted by Heaven and Earth. And this is what it will look like when it's finished. And right now I am at 12.25% complete, and I've stitched 33,760 stitches. And I have worked on this just a little bit, so I'll insert a picture of where it was at last year here. And here's where I'm at now. So just in the working on this page down here, I have 6 full pages completed, and now I'm working on the 3rd row over. I've kind of stopped because right over here is kind of where you start getting into like her nose, and her eye and stuff will be somewhere over here. So I'm trying to work on this hair because it's such a big part of the design before I get to some of the fun stuff of her face. So I've just been continuing to work down here, and I want to do these pages here and then kind of go back up, start on this one and work down those 3 pages. And I should be able to get 2 more pages on these 3 rows before I'd have to move the Q-snap. So I should be able to get 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, maybe 15 pages on here before I'd have to move the Q-snap. So this one I have slated for Full Coverage Fanatics. They have a month that's going to be teal. So this is the one I've picked that I'll work on for as a focus for that month for the teal color. That one's also being stitched on 28 count white Lugana 1/1 full crosses. My next one is one that I have worked on. I worked on it quite a bit in December. So this one is My Dreamer by Nadia Strelkina, and it's by Heaven and Earth Design. And this is a max color version. I actually requested it to be done in the max colors because I wanted it as close to the original artwork as possible, because I think it's beautiful. And this one, I am currently at 3.39% complete, and I've stitched 13,134 stitches. I'll insert a picture of where I was at for last WIP parade here. And here's where I'm at now. So I do still have a thread because like I said, I was just working on it. So this one is a lot of color changes because it is max color. So super confetti. And I've just, I have the first 1 full page complete. Now I'm working on the page right below that one. This one kind of goes into the 3rd page. But my focus is to get this next page done. And I just, the way I kind of stitch my Heaven and Earth is, especially with real confetti charts, is the page that I'm working on, if I finish the color on where I can stitch it easily, and it's also on some other pages that it's easy to figure out where those stitches need to go, I'll just finish my threads. So that's why you see all these scatteredness that need filled in. So I think this chart's going to be so pretty. Like, I love the detail just in this tree that I have finished so far. Like, you see the trunk, but then see how it gets hazy in some of the leaves, and right in front of that where you can see like a foggy mist that comes over. So I think the detail in this is going to be stunning once I get more of it finished. So I love this one. There for the month that they do blue, I'm gonna focus on this one. Two more and then we'll be finished. So my next one I have worked on. This one is Daydream Tigers, and this one is a large version, and it's by Sheena Pike, but it's charted by Charting Creations, and this is what it will look like finished. Tigers are my absolute favorite big cat. I love all big cats, lions, but tigers are my favorite. And this one, I'll insert a picture of where I was at for the last WIP parade here. And here's where I'm at now. So just still working on page 1. Page 1 for the large size is just basically the leaves. So I'm almost done with that page, and I've continued just like I do, pick a color and then stitch it where it's easily accessible. So this one I'm stitching on 28 count easy guide Lugana. I started this one in 2021. And I'm doing this one as a stitch along with my good friend Yantina Stitches. She does Flosstube videos. She's doing the regular size of this, and she actually has a lot of the first tiger right here finished. It looks stunning. So be sure to, if you don't watch her Flosstube, make sure to watch hers. Her and I have very similar tastes, so I love watching her videos because I know if she finds some patterns or cool new stuff, I'm probably going to like it because we do have similar tastes. And it's funny because sometimes she'll start something and it's either something I've already stitched or I have in my stash to stitch also. So that's just kind of fun. So go make sure to watch Yantina. But that's where I'm at with that one. And these colors are so pretty. For the full coverage fanatics, they have a month that's going to focus on orange, and that's the one that I'll focus on that month. My very last WIP, oh no, I lied. I have 2 more. This one I have not worked on. And this one is by Heaven and Earth Design. The artist is Katerina Koukiotis, and it is my Heaven's Little Angel. Oop. That is not what it will look like. That is what it will look like. And this one, I haven't worked on it this year. And I am currently 7.23% complete. I've stitched 8,912 stitches, so it's not a huge chart for Heaven and Earth. But here's where I'm at. So I've got 1 full page completed and started working on these other pages. So this one I'm stitching on 25 count Lugana 2/1 full cross, which is a little bulky. More bulky than I like, but I'm not going to restart it. And it's not super confetti, so it's not super horrible. This one does have a lot of Krynic in the chart. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, but it does have a lot of sparkle. It's kind of hard to see it through the camera. But there's a lot of Krynic in through her wings and the feathers, all in this area. I did a challenge when Heaven and Earth was doing some challenges. They had you stitch certain ways, and this was to complete like a checkerboard or something like that, and doing that caused me to get some page lines. So I'm going to have to run some threads behind those to try to get those to disappear because it drives me nuts. So there you can kind of see some sparkle, but that's where I'm at on that one. And for full coverage fanatics, when they have the gray, they have a month that has gray, then I'm gonna focus on that one again. And this was in a bag that I won. I can't remember who I won it from. It was a giveaway, I think in a Facebook group, but it was a coffee bag. I won it. So pretty. And my very last WIP is also my largest WIP. This is my King Coda Storyteller. And this one is a supersized version that's also max color. This is what he will look like finished. And so far I am at big whopping 4.84% complete, but I have stitched 33,145 stitches on this one, so it's a big one. And I have worked on this since last WIP parade, so I'll insert a picture of where I was at last year here. And then I have been working on this one this month so far, so I'll put a picture of where I was at the end of December here. And then here's where I'm at now. So far here in January, I've added an additional 1,029 stitches on this page here. Almost all black. This one's being stitched on 28 count white Lugana, 1/1 full crosses. And since I put this on a Q-snap, now to do these 3 rows, this is 6 full pages across. So I can do 2 more rows of 6 pages across, but this section of the chart is going to be a lot of that black space. So like this page right below this one is it's solid black. And then as I come over here, I'll start getting into the top of that pillow. So we'll get some tapestry, but the majority of these pages in this row are going to be almost the solid black. And then kind of over here on these couple pages, I think is when I get to do the little ground squirrel, the chipmunk. So that'll be a nice break. But other than that, the majority of these pages are going to be black stitching, which honestly it's not horrible because it does make it go pretty fast because you don't have to do a lot of color changes, but it does get kind of monotonous. But the nice thing about it will be once I slog through all these pages, that's going to be the most boring part of the chart. Like all this black in these next few like pages, that's the most boring part of the whole chart. So after I get that done, I've got the boring stuff out of the way, and the whole rest of the chart is going to be all the fun stuff. So as a reward for slogging through the black will be all the fun stuff. So that's where I'm at with that one. And my goal for this one, because it's super size and I love the design, I want to make it a focus too. But I'm going to, on my days off, this will be the project I work on at home on days off to try to get some good progress. I keep getting random hiccups, sorry. So that's all of my WIPs. So I think I have 30, I think I'm at 35 WIPs, cross stitch WIPs. So we'll just really quickly talk plans for 2023. Sorry about that. My sister was calling me because she's in Amana getting us coffee, and they were out of some of the flavors that we had wanted, so she had to ask me some replacements. So we'll go ahead and I'll just briefly talk about what my plans are for 2023 stitching. So this year I did stay in the group. It used to be No New Starts last year. They've updated the name to WIP Warriors. So I'm a member of that group. The track that I picked this year though is called Stitch What You Want, When You Want. So the Sweewee, I think that's how you say it, track. Because last year I didn't start anything other than those smalls that I earned for the retreats. So I'm really itching to start some things, but I also want to try to get my WIP count down because I've had these WIPs now, like there's some that have been here from 2016, 2017, 2018. I want to get those finished, and because I do like big projects, they take a while. So I don't want to have like an astronomical number of WIPs. So I need to keep myself, I want to keep myself, I don't need to, I mean, I can do whatever I want, but I want to try to keep myself in check a little bit. There's several full coverage that I am just dying to start, even though I have like probably 7 or 8 on the go. But there's some that are really calling to me that I want to start as well. So my plan for full coverage is because I do use Pattern Keeper for most of them, other than like my Dimensions kits or Candamar kits or whatever. So most of my full coverage, I do use Pattern Keeper. So my plan is that I want to go through, I have the dogs in King Coda that will be focus pieces, but all of my other full coverage, my goal is to have them try to fit them into one of the challenges in Full Coverage Fanatics, so they have a month focus. But what I also want to do for a rotation for those is I will pull out a WIP, and with Pattern Keeper I will stitch 1% of the chart. And I picked 1% because depending on the chart, sometimes it's a lot of stitches. So for example, I know on my New Girl 3, 1% of the chart is 2,756 stitches that I'd have to complete to do a full percent. So that's about 3,000 stitches, which is a decent chunk. So what I would like to do is stitch it to the next percent, and then rotate to the next full coverage, get that a full percent complete. And then what I thought I would do is once I make it through all my full coverage, adding a percent, at that time, if I still feel the need, I would allow myself to start a new full coverage design. And then with that new one I'd start, I would have to stitch it to 1% and then start over through the rotation and do every project, every full coverage to another full percent. And then rotate back to that new one, another full percent. Once I get through the whole line, if I feel the need, I can start a new full coverage at that point. Because there are some full coverage designs I want to stitch for my children. There's a couple that I want to do for my daughter, a couple I want to do for my son. I still want to do stockings for my husband and I. I'll show you a couple of the ones that I've really just dying to start right now. Daydream Moonlight is one by Sheena Pike and Charting Creations. It's the large size version. It's similar to the tigers, but it's bears. So this one has really been calling to me. I just love the colors. The bears are so cute, and I just love the design. I love bears. So that's one that I just really want to start it. The other one that I really want to start is from Artisy. It's called Dreamy Night, and it's this beautiful fox. So that one's been calling to me. I want to get our stockings started. And there's just too many, guys. I mean, it's crazy. Several more. There's some that I want to stitch for my husband and get those started. So, because I do love full coverage, they're my favorite kind of stitching, honestly. I thought that was a way that I can get good progress on the ones I have started, plus allow myself some new starts and kind of keep them in check, because honestly, there's probably like 40 I want to start, and craziness, but that's, you know how it goes. So that's my plan for full coverage. And then, like I said, my work stitching is going to be the dog double shelf, and then like smaller seasonal pieces, or my smaller WIPs that would be easier to work on if you get interrupted a lot. So my plan is to kind of start with some of my oldest WIPs and get those, just work on them till they're finished, honestly. And then on my days off at home, I'm going to focus on King Coda. And like I'd mentioned also with my grand dogs, those days that I have to babysit them, I won't be able to work on my full coverage unless they're not here, because if I have to use my Lowry stand or any of those when they're on the frames at least, or even big Q snaps, is hard because they're sitting on my lap. Any of those things that are smaller that I can hold in my hand, like on a hoop or like a small Q snap, I can work on those kind of projects while they're here. So I'll just pick one and use that as a focus. Like right now it's going to be the temperature tree until it's finished. And then I'll swap in another small one to stitch on while they're here. And then when they're gone, then I'll stitch on my full coverage or larger WIP that's not easy to take to work. And other than that, I plan on trying to do some challenges, like I said, in Full Coverage Fanatics for my full coverage, and then WIP Warriors has a lot of different challenges that you have to participate in, especially if you're doing the SWE track. So I plan on trying to do some of their challenges. I'd also like to do some challenges in the monthly magazine challenge, their cross sticks, and also the 24 hours of cross stitch marathons and like some of their cross sticks and things. I do have a harder time with challenges when it requires you to switch projects pretty frequently because usually I get going on a project and I just want to keep working on it. So those are even more challenging to me than like focus ones. So right now WIP Warriors has a crossword challenge going on where you have to stitch 200 stitches for each crossword answer and post your beginning. And so I think there's 10 prompts, so you could work on 10, either one project and do 200 stitches for each answer, or swap different projects and do 200 stitches on each one to get an answer. So I'm going to try to work on some of those today, and then next week they have a WIP frenzy where it's kind of similar. You work on a variety of WIP. The goal is to work on as many WIPs as you possibly can, getting 200 stitches in each one. So that one's, I'm going to try it, but it'll be hard for me because, like I said, it's hard to switch when I want to keep going on something. So that's kind of it for my plans. I don't want to make a whole ton because I think sometimes when you're too restrictive on what you're going to stitch, it sometimes kills my stitchy bugs. So if I feel like starting something, I want to be able to just start it. If I feel like stitching on something, I want to just stitch on it. And that's kind of how I'm going to work it this year. If I do, I want to try to keep my WIP count. I want to get my WIP count down as far as the seasonal pieces go and those other non-full coverage. But I do want to start several of those too. So I'm going to try to keep myself in check a little bit. So maybe finish a couple, then allow myself a new start. But when I do have that start, either work on it till it's finished, if it's a reasonable size, or get some significant progress where it's not going to be lingering around for, 5-6 years like some of my projects. So I think that's it. So I will go ahead and wrap up. Is in regards to my channel, my plans going forward is, I say this every time I do a video, is I want to get more consistent doing my floss tubes, because sometimes when I have these long gaps, it's because I really haven't been stitching. But even if I only come back for, a short video of 10 minutes, it's better than nothing. So I want to get more consistent with that, and at minimum do monthly recaps of my stitching for the month. So I'm going to plan on doing a video at the end of January for all the rest of January stitching. I do want to do some Stitch With Me videos still. I did finally buy a little phone holder thing that you can position, so to try to get angles so you can see me stitching. So I want to try some Stitch With Me videos, and as I figured with those, I will do some of those tags that you can find for cross-stitch things. So I'll answer tag questions as we stitch. I think that would be fun. And then the other thing I do plan on doing some this year, I don't know how many I'll do because it's kind of new to me, but I am a Scentsy consultant for like home fragrance, and I want to do some videos related to Scentsy, like some of the I can't even say that word. What the heck? Promotions. The things going on in the month, I wanted that are special. I want to do maybe some videos on those. It won't be, I don't anticipate it being a whole ton, but if I do post any of those, I will have them clearly marked that they're Scentsy videos and not Flosstube related. So if you don't want to watch those or not into home fragrance, you don't have to. And then I do also plan on trying to be more consistent with, I do have an online craft store called Loves Rubber Stamps and Needlecrafts, which is the name of my channel. And I have like rubber stamping type things, and I'm adding cross stitch in there. So I have a ton of stuff here that I need to go through my stock, get all the stock updated, and get all that stuff that I've had come in actually listed in the store. So I want to get better with that and maybe give some updates in my Flosstube video. So I think that's it. So be sure, if you haven't subscribed yet, that you subscribe to my channel if you like any of my projects, and be sure to hit that bell, because like I said, once I get that shipment in from Pinky Promises store, I'm going to be doing a couple of giveaways for her gorgeous project bags. So that'll be coming up in the near future. And also, I just want to thank everybody for spending some time with me today, and I appreciate it because there's tons of WIP parades going on. So if you took the time to watch this movie, I appreciate it, and I hope I will see you back at the end of January. And other than that, enjoy your stitching, stay healthy, and I will see you soon. Bye now.